guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over a very important topic, which is what to do in a multiple offer situation. You have done something right. And it could have been a collaboration of things that went right between you and your agent. You guys got it market ready and list ready for buyers to come in and fall in love with your property. And your agent has guided you during this list process on how to prep you a good market value list price where it's not overlisted and it just sits on the market and then buyers think that there's something wrong with the property. You guys gave good curb appeal. There's so many things that factor into a multiple situation, and sometimes it's just even location. Now, assuming you do have an amazing agent, they're going to go and review all the offers with you, break down all the terms, what it means, and knowing your situation and which offer is going to best benefit you. Or if you're thinking about selling your property and you're hoping that you're going to get multiple offers based on, your market, location, condition of the property, and you're kind of curious on what to expect and what to look for in offers, well, this is what this video is going to go into detail about. Now, I know it's tempting to go for the highest offer or the highest purchase price on the offer, but there are a lot of things in the contract that make it so much more stronger than the actual purchase price, which I know you're probably like, well, no, say that's crazy. Like, I want to net more money. Like, I want the best price for my home, but there's a lot of concessions, closing costs, and contingencies, provisions, so many things that buyers can put in a contract that truly could waste your time on the market or just add on expenses during the transaction that truly isn't even guaranteed to you until the day of closing. And with that being said, when the rates were super low and I was running around with so many buyers, I closed so many transactions with buyers when the market was crazy, and most of my deals that I got locked up and closed for my buyers, we weren't even the highest net or purchase price to the seller. I got very creative and knew how to structure a deal and offer to present to the listing agent and communicate it to them so they could relay the message to the seller and feel confident into choosing my buyers in the contract, even though it technically wasn't the strongest or highest offer. This would like a detailed video on how I structured those offers when representing a buyer, or if you are a buyer and you feel like you could recommend some of these things that I am teaching you to your agent, then I'm more than happy to do a video. Just let me know. And yeah, let's get into it. So with the rates being high right now, most of my listings aren't getting multiple offers, but in the last couple of months, I have had 2 listings that have each gotten 4 to 5 offers. And I will say, I think because of the list price and the condition, that it just went crazy competitive with buyers. So we listed this April 5th, the one that I sold back in May for my client who's an investor. It was an off-market deal, and he completely fixed it up and renovated it. 1,200 square foot, no garage, brick ranch house in Norfolk, fully renovated. We listed it in April at $250. So this is just an example of how I get a spreadsheet together when there are multiple offers, so I can make sure that I'm mapping out everything for my clients when we go to review them, and I'm not missing anything. And not only that, if I just bring the contracts, they're gonna be like, wait, which offer did this, and that? So I will typically put more details of the buyer's name, the agent, and much more greater detail so it's not confusing, and then I will label 1, 2, 3, 4 with the contracts and the spreadsheet. But for the sake of this video, we'll just do it this way. Offer number 1, and you will see that they offered $260, $205 to be exact. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the purchase price column. Now, in the purchase price on section 3, you'll see in the middle, typically that's where it shows the loan that they're going to be using, whether it's VA, FHA, or conventional. They put other. So they are using a secondary financing loan, And to be quite honest with you guys, I have not accepted any listings that have used this loan, nor have I represented a buyer using this. I will say currently I do have a listing that a buyer is using a grant through the city, and it has not been the most joyful, but we're working through it with mine. Okay. So it shows that they have $60,000 to put down. So it shows that they have $60,000 to put as their down payment. When there is a large amount of a down payment, I do like to ask for proof of funds, because a lot of people, unfortunately, and I'm not just saying the buyers, sometimes the loan officer doesn't verify the funds, or they are receiving the down payment as a gift, but they haven't yet, so they really actually don't have the funds. There's a lot of things that you should verify if they are promising some sort of cash towards a transaction, to make sure that they have it. So, all right. Second thing is the EMD, which is your earnest money deposit. That is the buyer's secured interest into the contract, and them promising that if for any reason that they release from the contract, terminate it with no contingencies protecting them, then they are aware that they will lose that EMD and potentially could be sued for damages. But my whole point is the higher the EMD, the stronger the offer is. So their EMD is $500, which is standard. I like to do my EMDs minimum of $1,000, but I do like to be considerate of my buyer's position. All right, loan type. This is not VA, FHA, or conventional, so I'm just gonna do, other. CCA, closing cost assistance. On section 4 of the contract, this is where they're asking for the seller to pay the buyer's closing costs. So sometimes it's a percentage. Sometimes they're asking for 2%, 3%, 5%. Sometimes they ask for a flat dollar amount. So $2,000, $5,000, $10,000. Right now in this market, a lot of buyers are asking for a lot of closing cost assistance to either buy down points, or they know that they have a little bit more of an advantage in this market if there isn't any multiple offers. So, and I fully understand. I tell my buyers the same thing. If you're the only offer on the table, then, try and shoot for the moon and stars. Don't expect it, but at least try and ask and negotiate. When it comes to me representing my sellers, if I see a fixed amount of the buyer asking for closing cost assistance, for example, $10,000, I always recommend my sellers to counter back at a percentage. And this is why. If for any reason the appraisal comes in lower than the contract price that the buyer is willing to pay for, if it's a fixed dollar amount, the seller is still obligated to pay that because it's a binding contract. There's no renegotiations on that end. I mean, technically, yes, you can try and ask, but the buyer has no obligation to do it. Where instead of a fixed rate of $10,000, if we counter, hey, we'll offer, the seller's willing to compensate 2%, well, the percentage is going to fluctuate based on the closing price. And as close as I get my list price to what I feel like it would appraise for, does not always mean I can predict the future and that it would appraise for that. Sometimes it could be a couple grand off. Sometimes it would appraise at value or over. It doesn't matter, because regardless, if you have that $10,000 fixed in, then your sellers are locked in for that. So at least when it's at a percentage value, it's going to fluctuate on whatever the close price is. All right, so they're not asking for any closing cost assistance, so I'm going to go ahead and zero that. TMI is termite moisture inspection. So we do now have basements here. I mean, we have a couple, but not really. And most loans require a clear letter for a slab or crawl space. I know that FHA can waive it, and I believe conventional. Again, I'm not guaranteeing that's a fact, but I do remember that there are certain situations where you can waive it. But I never recommend waiving any kind of inspections. So when I'm representing my seller, I always like to recommend a pre-inspection on the crossface or slab. If there's any moisture, termite, any kind of damages, that will get in the way of a clear letter. So I do like to see the seller to obtain the clear letter, even if it's at the seller's expense. But most of the time it's the buyer that wants to have their company or their agent's company go out and do a second inspection, which I completely understand. But I'm not at the seller's expense. At least I try to recommend to my sellers to counter that, which on this contract you'll see that the buyer shall obtain and authorize a delivery at the seller's expense. And I already had a clear letter, and it was a fully renovated house, so obviously that's something that my seller would counter. So for TMI, a stronger offer would have had seller to obtain it at seller's expense, but I understand why buyers don't want the seller to, because there are a lot of shady investors, and they, what we like to call, put lipstick on a pig, and they really just make it look pretty, but they do not actually refurbish and renovate the main bones and structure of the home. So I get it. PICA. PICA is Property Inspection Contingency Addendum. This is how many days that the buyer has and is protected under any kind of inspection contingencies, whether that be a home inspection, lead-based paint inspection, which I've never seen, just any extra due diligence, survey, things of that nature. We don't really see anything other than the property inspection, but this is where I would lay it into my spreadsheet. I checked my email because it wasn't attached to this offer. The agent asked for 15 days, which is, for me, in my opinion, is a lot of days. You really shouldn't need more than 7 days, but so be it. Okay. This is another thing that I always look for. There's way more I look into than the contract, but like the contract states buyer has physically inspected the property in person. This was created during COVID because a lot of people were doing virtual showings. That verbiage is just stating that they actually physically saw the property. Sight unseen offers are a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Sight unseen offers are a little bit, not alarming, just you gotta be a little bit more careful, because if they come to the home inspection and like, whoa, this is just like, my agent did not really like virtually show me this properly and I hate it, then you're just taking it off the market to put it back on. But again, I'm not gonna go into the nitty gritty details. I'm just kind of going over like the main important things. Other contingencies, so you'll see that they, because of this secondary loan, they are having, the program does require another inspection, which again is happening to one of my other listings right now. So extra loan slash, or just extra loan requirements. So they put for May 24th, 2024. Mind you, we listed April 5th. So they're asking for like a 45-day closing. So it's just mainly that. Okay, so that's buyer one, offer one. They came up on purchase price. There's some things in here that, again, this is prime example. $10,000 over asking price, but I mean the EMD, the financing, and the extra requirements and contingencies, you know, I can get past like the TMI, and the closing date does kind of make me worried. Is the closing date because that's how much time the loan officer needs, or is it because of the buyer? This is where communicating with the agent is very crucial. But as the listing agent receiving multiple offers, this is where I do expect more out of the buyer's agent, asking questions. Do you have multiple offers? Hey, other than net, what's more important to your seller? Hey, I know that we have the closing date more than 30 days, but it is because buyer's lease doesn't end, or because the loan officer needs more time. Now, if the loan officer needs more time, that's more of a red flag for me than the lease expiring. So again, this is just my personal, not preference, because it's not my house, it's not my decision, but just based on my experience and what I've seen, it is very crucial for me to know all these elements and details. Okay, next offer. Oh, this offer is funny. It was actually offer submitted by an agent within my firm and team. She didn't really like call me and be like, hey, like, I mean, whatever, to each their own. I'm not judging or whatever. But, you know, I explained to people, at the end of the day, we're just delivering the message. If my client tells me to write up an offer for $1, I'm going to write up an offer for $1. But you best believe I'm going to call the other agent and be like, hey, listen, don't shoot the messenger, but your seller is not going to be happy with this. Let me, like, buy you a drink because you're going to have to deal with this insulting offer. You know what I mean? Just some kind of communication, just saying, like, I know this is ridiculous. And honestly, like, truly, after being in this industry for a while, I don't want to work with people that are not reasonable. Like, they submitted this offer 2 days after we had it on the market, and it is $25,000 under list price. But some people assume because it's cash that people will just go with the cash because there's less contingencies. No. Not for a fully renovated house that is turnkey move-in ready. If it needed a lot of repairs, okay. But okay, so let's just proceed. $225. And they thought, because they did a $2,000 EMD, that it would be stronger, but it doesn't matter, because just because there's not financing contingencies, I can assure you that and I get it, this is probably someone picking it up as a rental, but I'm like, that's not a smart way to pick up rentals. That's not the best way to leverage your cash. Okay, so they put TMI seller to obtain the clear letter. Email, they did a 5-day home inspection contingency. Close date for so like a 20-day closing. Okay. So if these were the only two offers in hand, I would obviously go for the traditional retail buyer that has the financing and really anchor down on some questions and qualifications of the financing and contingencies. Okay, so this one like kind of like raised an eyebrow for me, because this was the buyer that was submitting the offer, but she didn't even, and listen, I'm not here to judge. I'm not saying I've done this, but I've, made like some mistakes on sending the wrong thing. Typically my mistakes, knock on wood, is like, oh shoot, I forgot a signature, I forgot something. This is a completely different like property on the contract, not even my firm. Like, I mean, and I get it, like when you're working with so many buyers, it gets a little crazy. But the thing is when I called the agent, I said, hey, I noticed that there's a different address. Like everything is just not lining up to my listing. She goes, oh, sorry, I'll get you a new one. But that's because I guess maybe this buyer submitted an offer on Ryan's Home new construction, which, stay away. She said that the terms are the same and she'll get me a new one. I checked my email, she never really did. But maybe because I called her verbally saying, hey, we ended up accepting another offer. And I don't want to waste her time, but we'll just, go based on these terms. Okay, so they did $5,000 over asking price, $500 earnest money deposit, VA loan, and See, here we go. There's the closing cost assistance. So they are asking for $7,000, and this is where I would tell my seller, let's go ahead and counter at a percentage. I don't care if I'm 99.9% sure it's going to appraise. I like to cover all things. So, okay. Closing date is so they did like a 25-day closing. Seller to obtain the clear letter. Did a 10-day home inspection contingency, and they don't have any other contingencies. And when I say other contingencies, the main one is like a home sale contingency. They're selling a home to buy a new one. Okay, that's in my opinion, that it was a very poorly drafted offer submitted. I get agents are busy, but your offer and how you present it to the listing agent is going to carry to the seller. And if it's not the sharpest, cleanest, most detailed, even in the email, and just it's not the best way to represent a buyer. And there's listing agents that do the same thing. They just casually go through all the offers and they're like, yeah, truly, like, I've worked with this agent and, they did good, or this offer, yeah, they got a really good purchase price, but it's with Navy Federal that's financing. Like, there's just so many things that some listing agents don't communicate to the seller, saying like, hey, yes, this is a strong offer, but, be aware of future outcomes. And there's always different outcomes, but at least, like, if you review the contract, about some of them. You don't know all outcomes. There's some that aren't even have to do with the contract. Something personally happened to the buyer or seller. But at least you can call out the ones that you see that the other agent put in there. Anyways, here's the fourth offer. So here's the fourth offer, the winning offer. This agent, I don't know personally, but I do know mutually. He, very known in the community, and this offer didn't get accepted because of that, but because he is known in the community, does say something in a sense of he's actively, producing sales. He's actively working with buyers, actively working with sellers. And when you're actively working as an agent, you know how to not only construct an offer, but you also know how to communicate. He called me every day, twice a day. Hey, Sadie, I see you listed another house. And he offered on a listing I had a month prior to this, and he didn't get it. And his offer was very, very strong, but the other one, was stronger. But I really did appreciate how much he consistently communicated with me and really tried to get not only his buyers in the best position to win the house, but see what would best beneficial to the seller. So I love working with agents like this. At the end of the day, most people are sometimes, at the end of the day, some agents, and I don't know why, but you'll hear them complain about clients. It's never my case. My biggest complaint sometimes is the other agent on the other end. So when I come across a really good agent, and it doesn't mean that you could produce a little bit or a lot, it doesn't matter. And I don't care how long you've been in it. I don't care how much you sell. But if I see the way that you present yourself and your clients and how you deliver things, it shows a lot. So as you can see, besides the cash offer, they weren't even the highest offer. Technically, they weren't even the highest offer at all. They were the second highest, but why did the seller accept this one? So they're at $260,000 EMD, good. VA loan. closing cost assistance. Everyone pays for their own fees. 30-day close. Again, he communicated to me when he submitted the offer, hey Sadie, is there anything on there that your seller probably isn't going to be a fan of? I said, yeah, I already got a clear letter with Excel. Oh, Excel? Yeah, no, they're a great company. Okay, let me call my buyers. Buyers agree to have the seller to obtain the clear letter. Working with a full-time active agent, they're going to know the different companies that are involved in some sort of property and know that they can validate and trust their work and warranties. So again, I was very, very happy working with this agent. Shout out to DJ Julian. Seven-day home inspection, shortening up that contingency. And they didn't have any other contingencies, no sales. So yeah. So just as a quick overview, you know, some strong factors behind price is obviously going to be contingencies, what type of financing, and who's the loan officer that is going to make sure that the file is on track to close through the bank, closing timeline, also the buyer's purchasing power. So whether that be the down payment or closing costs that they're going to be using, is it actually their cash of funds or is it gifted? Is there any proof of funds? Are they selling a home to buy a home? There's so many things that can qualify a buyer on their purchasing power. Obviously, there's so much more that goes into a contract, and everything is, you know, case by case. Everything's so situational, but just to kind of have a, you know, calmer approach on educating someone on a multiple offer situation. I hope this has helped someone, whether you are going through this amazing situation with multiple offers or you plan on selling your property. Remember that the highest offer is not always the best offer. For a more personalized, custom question, please feel free to reach out to me. I am more than happy to help. You can always privately message me on Instagram, Facebook. You can leave a comment on YouTube and I can reach out to you. For more tips on selling or buying a home, check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.